Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Schmoedown Rundown. Introducing first, Frankie Stats Janisch. And their co-host, the man of controversy, Mr. Bryan the Duke Davids. And finally, your host, Aaron Turner. Let's get ready to Schmoedown.
What's going on, Movie Trivia Schmoedown fans? It is episode number 60 of the Schmoedown Rundown. My name is Aaron. I will be your host for this episode. Joining me today, a guy that's probably hoping we get done so we can go play some Battlefront, Frank Janisch. What's up, man?
You know it, Aaron. Man, I was playing it for like 2 hours before we got on here. And, yeah, I'm itching to get back to it. It's pretty sad.
I hear you. I was watching The Punisher, so, you know, I'm a little bit behind. But also joining me today, Mr. Brian Davids. What's up, man?
To quote Schmoedown fan Mauricio Ramirez, Sam's no longer the inglorious one. He is truly the glorious one.
Very nice. Good stuff. I'm a big Bobby Roode fan, so that tickled my fancy. Championship week, guys. Long road, a lot of tournament action going on for the past couple months. It's been dominating the Schmoedown ranks, and we're at the end here. Two big matches to go over this week. But before we get there, we had a championship week preview show with Ken Knapsack and Jen Sturger. Fantastic stuff. Ken and Jen has a nice ring to it. Now, Brian, I know you had a particular interest in this segment, in this particular video. Tell me about it.
First off, hashtag Jen at the table. It finally happened in a way, from a certain point of view. Hashtag fervor for Sturger has already taken the Schmoedown streets by storm. So, guys, this is progress. And I consider this kind of an audition of sorts. And Jen, with two N's, absolutely crushed it. She was wonderful with Ken up there. It seemed like they had been calling matches together for years, even though it was just a preview special. So I believe this was truly hashtag Jen at the table's audition. The fans want it. We want it. If you check the comments of all the Jen-centric videos these days, you'll see the first 5 to 10 comments, Jen at the table, Jen at the table. So it's really cool to see something that kind of started on the show evolve into something that is now happening. So I'm thrilled for Jen. I'm thrilled for the Schmoedown because she's just such a natural. Aaron, I presume you were thrilled as well?
I had a great time with this. Ken and Jen, I love it. Like I said, has a nice ring to it. I like their rapport. I liked it a lot. Frankie J, Ken and Jen, your thing?
Yeah, I was real happy to see Jen at the table with Ken. You're right. It does have a good ring to it. And yeah, this is progress of some kind. I think we need a couple more slogans, some more slogans to make sure that Jen is actually at the table finally. I feel like the more slogans we tack on, the closer and closer we get to this reality. And you're right, Brian, we see in the comments, I'm seeing in the comments all the time, Jen at the table, and people are getting a taste of what that might be like. I think it's great that on this episode or this preview special, she was paired up with Ken. Ken is so good at feeding off another person's energy, and I think Jen is the same way as well. So it was a very good mesh between the two, and I fully enjoyed watching them at the table together.
Yeah, Harloff DM'd me and he said, I purposely did not tell you this was coming because I wanted you to have that feeling of surprise. I wanted you to feel like that this was a gift in some way, shape, or form. So I'm glad he kept this buried from us, from me specifically, because it was everything and more. So I expect this to lead to many more hashtag Jen at the tables. Fervor for Sturger.
Would you be okay if Jen kind of ran with that hashtag, the Jen at the table, and then just started sitting at random tables and hashtagging pictures with it?
Why not? Why not?
Okay, cool.
There are like so many famous tables out there, even though I can't name one, but I bet there's famous tables all over the world that you could take pictures with and, you know, hashtag Jen at the table.
Now, Mr. Turner, not to be confused with James Woods, are you trying to compare this to kind of a planking movement of sorts?
Maybe it could be. She could just run with it, do whatever. She could sit at the King Arthur round table, perhaps. She could sit at many different tables.
Paste a random picture in Twitter and Instagram with the hashtag, no matter what table it is, Jen at the table. It's a brilliant idea.
I would encourage other fans of Jen and of the Schmoedown to take pictures at tables, at your Thanksgiving table, at your Christmas table, and hashtag it Jen at the table. Let's get everybody at a table and hashtag it Jen at the table.
Especially if your mom or your aunt or your second cousin is named Jen with 2 N's.
Maybe, and I don't want to go this far, like this is kind of getting the creep territory, but maybe when you're taking your Thanksgiving pictures and you got the family all around the table, maybe you cut and paste in a little Jen Sturger there, and Jen could be at your table. I'm just saying.
Oh, man.
Yeah, much like that Deadpool 2 poster, she is like the Cable of the cast. Cable just makes the cast better, just like Sturger makes any Schmoedown better.
You picked up what I was putting down. I like that. Well, also on the docket, we had the new commissioner, Thad, on Inside Schmoedown with Ken Knapsack. Again, big week for Ken. And he was great, man. I like Thad a lot as the commissioner. I can't help but put the guy over. We'll talk later about his love of contracts. I think that's a great thing. And he even went as far as to make an announcement of a couple matches, but one in particular that I know Frank's going to be interested in. Only Stupid Answers versus the Wildberries. Frank, first of all, what do you think of Thad overall? And are you interested in this team match? Because I know you're a big Only Stupid Answers fan.
Yeah, I like those guys from Only Stupid Answers, DJ and Sam. I've followed them for a few years now, so I like what they do. And I'm glad that they've entered the Schmoedown, albeit for one match. Going up against Wildberries should be very entertaining because I think, between Makuga and Dewberry, just the whole interaction between both teams, I think, is going to be a lot of fun. And I think that's what that match is specifically for, just a good, a good time and not so much a stressful match between I want this person to win or I want that person to win, nothing like that. Just a good old-fashioned, let's answer some trivia and poke fun at each other and have a good time. As for Thad, I'm thrilled that he's the commissioner. I think his attitude towards being the commissioner is so great, and it's very different from the way Christian approaches it, which is good because you don't want more of the same. So I like the way Thad approaches the commissionership, if you will. So I'm looking forward to seeing what other contracts, as you have alluded to, what other stuff he's got up his sleeve.
Yeah, definitely neutral for sure. I mean, I'm not saying that Christian's biased in any way, but it just seems like Thad is very fair, I would say. What do you think, Brian? What do you think of Thad's appearance? What do you think of this team match he announced?
Well, Turner, I mean, not to confuse you with Dr. Turner, James Woods' character in John Q, but I'm sure you're really excited to see the Wildberries return to the Schmoedown. I know that they're one of your favorite teams. I know that Christian is getting you their shirt for Christmas. I hope I didn't spoil that gift already, but everybody knows you're a big Wildberries fan, so I'm sure you're ecstatic for this match. And I'm a big fan of Only Stupid Answers. Actually, I'm not a big fan. I don't know why I just said that. I'm a fan of those guys, especially DJ Don't Call Me Orlando Wooldridge, which is actually Woolridge. DJ's got a D, but it's going to be a fun, entertaining match. They're about average teams as far as skill goes, but it's going to be a fun match. I expect lots of tall boys to be in the mix, and that's going to be on November 28th, as mentioned. And then on December 8th, we have the Fatal 5 War, which is basically the date was announced. We already knew who was playing, but it's going to be on December 8th. Alex Explained, Shayna O'Neill, Sam Whitwer, Joseph Scrimshaw, Steele Saunders from Steel Wars Podcast. He was on Jedi Council this week. Very good. I'm very excited to see him in the Schmoedown. His personality fits beautifully within the Schmoedown just based on his Jedi Council appearance. But there's a couple things I want to say about Thad with 2 Ds. He made a couple interesting points on Inside Schmoedown. Someone asked Thad with 2 Ds what he wants his lasting impact to be as commish. And he said that he wants people to be clear on who they are, good or bad. He doesn't want people to be playing both sides. He doesn't want people to be gray. He doesn't like people being tweeners. And I know that's an old school term, but he wants people to pick a side. He doesn't want people to straddle both sides. He wants them to be clear on their role. So I feel like that was kind of an indirect shot at JSR a little bit. He wasn't taking a shot directly, but it was kind of a way of saying, certain players are straddling both sides whenever it's convenient to them, and we've seen JSR do that. So I was really interested in what Thad with 2D said there. And then Ken asked him about his controversial Emma Fyffe comments last week, since she's proven to be biased. A lot of the fans were upset when they regarded Emma as being impartial, when Jen Sturger is the impartial interviewer. That's been her role, while Emma's been the face interviewer, while Grace has been the heel interviewer. And basically Thad with 2D has clarified that he was projecting what he'd like to see from Emma moving forward. Jen was brought up by Ken almost immediately, and Thad said, unfortunately, she's hard to book these days, so we should expect to see some new people in the role, such as Riley, because Jen with 2 N's is sometimes difficult to book. So he wasn't saying that Emma was impartial, going back to the original point. He was just saying he wants to see her be more impartial moving forward, and he thinks that she can do that. So hopefully that clears up that controversy.
I just want to go back to one thing you said about me being a fan of the Wildberries. I can tell you that the best thing that's come out of that pairing is Janine LC's work that she did, creating a Wildberries t-shirt. And if I were to receive that as a gift, I would cherish it because I know she got a cut of it.
Yeah, she's one of the unsung heroes as far as the artists go in this community. And of course, Mr. Ward's Wildberries shirt is extraordinary. I love the color palette that he used on that. But yeah, that was Inside Schmoedown this week. Before we get to our recaps, I just want to say a quick thank you to Christian Harpool Karloff for his generosity. As you guys might recall, my microphone blew up last week on air. The next morning, I got a text from Carpool Christian, presumably as he was listening to our show, and he said that he was sending me a Guitar Center gift card to get a new mic. So I was quite touched by this act of generosity. He wrote a little card that was attached to the email. It said, "You might drive me insane, but after 75 consecutive episodes, you deserve this." So thank you, Christian, for helping me replace my mic with ease. I love the new sound. I've got it going through a lovely Scarlett Focusrite deal. So I take back everything I've ever said about you.
Hell of a time to do that.
I like that. All right, guys, it's time. Let's recap the Ultimate Schmoedown Team Championship Finals. It was above the line. Samm Levine and Drew McWeeny versus Team Action, Ben Bateman and Andrew Guy. I can't call him Drew in this instance because there's Drew McWeeny, and it was really confusing on my scorecard, and I kept screwing up. So I gotta differentiate. But let's get into it. Let's talk about the promo. Action coming in hot, confusing Samm and Drew as Drew is William Bibiani, and I think Samm is either Brecken Meyer or DJ Qualls. I wasn't sure which one. There was a road trip mentioned in there. Above the line with their sexy ass beards. Guys, Frank, what did you think of these promos? These were a little bit off the wall.
Yeah, it was a little bit off the wall. Action's little bit about who's who actually ended up confusing me, so that was pretty funny. And then I loved Sam's line about having the sexiest beards and Drew just laughing hysterically and then coming to a still and saying, "Yep," and just I was like, that's great, Drew. Like he was planning, hopefully an edit would be there, but that was a great moment. So, but then we got what we thought from Action, what they do. And I gotta say, I've been a little disappointed in their smack talk as of late, and I think that's large in part due to Mr. Samm Levine. He's really neutralized them, and I feel like they were kind of feeling the effects. Even though these were filmed separately, I felt like Samm Levine was over their shoulder on this one because it wasn't their best stuff, but it was still enjoyable.
Brian, what do you think here?
Before I get into the promos, I just want to point out the fact that even though Thad with 2Ds was just announced as interim commish, Christian was back to call this match despite missing only 2 matches since the announcement that Thad with 2Ds was taken over. So since the timing of the Thad announcement was kind of odd, it was nice to see them pivot to this notion that Christian shouldn't be commish as long as he's champion for another few weeks. So this whole interim commish stuff was meant to cover Harloff during his paternity leave, but then it evolved into, well, since he's champion, we might as well have an interim commish as long as Christian is champion the rest of the way. And that kind of presents some exciting storylines. I wonder if Thad with 2Ds will get drunk with power. Maybe he will not want to give up the role as easily as he's saying he will right now. So interesting stuff to play out there, I'm sure. But above the line, Drew and Samm, they look confident. You can tell that they've improved as far as their back and forth together. They just seem comfortable. They're playing the face card, which I love. Drew had his little spoiler shirt. He tried to drop this line that the next spoiler is going to be ATL beating Action. So I like what he was trying to do there. I like Sam's sexy ass beard's comment. And Action, yeah, I was slightly disappointed just because they are such good smack talkers that they would go for the low hanging fruit of, oh, they're the most boring team in the Schmoedown, the kid from Road Trip. A lot of people do confuse Bibiani with MVP just because they are so good and they both debuted around the same time. So they took something that actually did happen and kind of spun it into a joke. And I didn't understand at all where they were going with all these animated references as far as Samm, as far as Drew being the kid from Up. I had no idea what the goal of all that was. So not their best promo, but still, you cannot wait to hear what they're going to say next because you never know when it's going to be vulgar, and they can somehow take things so far, and yet you still kind of like them, even when they take things a bit too far. So, Aaron, thoughts on the entrances?
I liked Above the Line because they came out, they did their standard, very casual, just sitting at the desk, and Drew brought a prop. I don't know if you guys saw that. It was kind of subtle. It took me my second viewing to catch it, but he had a little Funko Pop Godfather in front of him. Did you guys catch that?
Vito Corleone.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. And on the action side of
and
it,
a Coke. Don't forget, he brought a Coke. That was a prop.
he sure did. On the other side of it, though, Action, I love this. Coming out with the trophies, if you will, of their past people they have defeated, the Roka hat, the baseball bat, all that good stuff. I loved that very much. Good stuff from Action there. Definitely better than their promo work in this match, for sure.
You know what's interesting? They probably spent $10 to get a pizza box. They probably got a leftover pizza box that was delivered to the Schmoedown because they usually get pizza, from my understanding. So they probably took an old pizza box, probably bought a cheap cowboy hat from a thrift store, and a Trek shirt. Maybe they borrowed one of Inman or Mantis Trek shirts. Who knows? This just goes to show that you don't have to spend $6,000 to have a successful entrance. So competitors out there, I know we love Miss Movie's $10,000 entrances, but in this case, for $10, you can still do something that is very entertaining. It's all about creativity. Of course, if you have $10K to spend on an entrance and you're creative like Miss Movies, you're going to get something good, but a little can still go a long way.
Yeah, I don't think they spent $10. I think they spent $0. I think they stole all of those items just because that's what they do.
Well, that
Guys, they're sponsored by 7-Eleven for pizza.
and Fuddruckers and plenty of other odd establishments. That was not Roka's cowboy hat, though. I made sure to check a couple times. So
It was a good imitation.
It was a good imitation. It was black and it was obnoxious looking, but there was a nice moment where Dastardly Drew asked Samm for his autograph because there's a celebrity at the table, and they turned to Drew thinking that he was Samm. So I got a kick out of that bit. I know Samm did not appreciate it. He said you guys had weeks to prepare for this, and that's the best you could come up with. But for some reason, it gave me a laugh, and that's just team action in a nutshell right there.
No doubt about it. Let's go ahead and get into round number 1, where we had, for Above the Line, Samm coming out, getting 5 points, Drew getting 7, just missing the 1 for a perfect round. On the Action side, Ben Bateman coming in hot, getting 7 points, and Andrew Guy only managing 3, so it was 12-9 Above the Line. They were off to a quick start. Frank, what'd you think, man?
Andrew Guy, man, that was look, I'll say it, that's Matt No's level of not showing up in a title match, and not for your counterpart. 3 points in that first round, and when you look at the final score, And then Andrew Guy has to look at his performance in the first round. That stings a lot because if he is even halfway serviceable in this round, things could be very, very different. But McWeeny doing what he does. Levine had a solid round. So Andrew Guy, I mean, he was playing well coming into this match, answering about five questions correct in the past 2 matches. So to put up a 3 spot, that's pretty tough to swallow.
Yeah, I kind of felt bad for Andrew after this. I figured the comments would be burying him, and they definitely were. Brian, give me your round 1 thoughts here.
Yeah, you have a bad round when Matt Nost is able to mock your round 1 performance. So I've had my concerns about Dastardly Drew for a while. When it came to the Pulp Fiction question against T10, there have been certain questions that are relatively easy, and he's just not pulling them. So I'm very concerned that Ben, much like JSR, has to often carry the load. And as we've seen with JSR, if JSR ever has an off match or if Ben ever has an off match, it's going to be very difficult for that team to win. I still think Andrew is a bit better than Matt Nost, all things considered, but very concerned about Dastardly Drew right now. And what was strange about this match, though, the first 2 questions, Sam started off 0-2. Sam with 2 M's, no points. And once again, an animated question caught him up. Joan Cusack and Toy Story. Question 3, though, the Winklevosses in The Social Network, both played by Armie Hammer. Of course, there was a different actor in the place for the twin that Hammer later played through CG, but Drew with horrendous oversight. It's common knowledge that Armie Hammer played both twins, but to think that Dave Fincher would cast that dial tone Liam Hemsworth in The Social Network? Come on, Dastardly Drew. Come on. So I'm shocked by that. It's 4-3 ATL at that point. Gloria Swanson as Norma Desmond, silent movie star in Sunset Boulevard, 6-4 at that point. And you just knew that Above the Line would both get that, and of course they did. Ben, of course, got it there. And Kevin Smith in Die Hard 4, this is actually a recycled question. We've had this question before. Everybody got it, as you'd expect. Question 6, Lori Mila Kunis in Ted. And my goodness, once again, Dastardly Drew, he's already cost his team in this match, and he did it again in this case. And the thing about Mila Kunis, as I always say, this is a surface-level question and answer. This is an objectively easy question because one look at that TED poster informs you of the answers. So between Armie Hammer, between Mila Kunis, between Pulp Fiction's briefcase against T10, I'm really worried about Dastardly Drew right now. And I say this because I care. I like the guy. I'm a fan of team action, but sometimes we all need a kick in the trousers, and I hope my criticism right now is that kick in the trousers. And then, shockingly, question 7, the gross point blank question, Sam and Drew, Dastardly Drew, both got it, while MVP and Ben Bateman both missed it. So you would think the 2 stronger players on each team would be the ones to get this rather tough tagline, and yet the lesser players on both teams were the ones to get it, Sam and Drew. And when I say Sam is a lesser player, of course, I'm not equating him to the level of Dastardly Drew just compared to MVP. He's not quite on MVP's level, but very shocking how it was an opposite situation right there. And Ben Bateman did what Ben Bateman does, which is put up an above average round 1. Same as the case for Drew McQueenie, almost went perfect. The key to this match was always going to be how Sam with 2 M's and Dastardly Drew complemented their captains. And Sam put up a Matt Nost level round 1, while Dastardly Drew really sank the ship from the start with just 3 points. And I knew at this point that Action was not going to win based on Drew's performance. And Frank, you had a great round 1 stat that I'll save for later, but it's just fascinating how it kind of played out.
Yeah, I don't want to jump too far ahead because it's like in my closing, but I at no point, I know that the score did not tell the tale, but I don't think at any point Above the Line was sweating this match, especially after round 1.
No way.
Especially after round 1. Let's go ahead and talk about round 2 now. Action was up first. They got Action Adventure. They go 3 of 6. They got 5 points. Above the Line added 4 points across 3 steals. The Mechanic, John Travolta, and Howie Long in Firestorm. My
5. Question 5. Former NFL player Howie Long took a shot at becoming an action star by playing firefighter Jesse Grave in what 1990s action thriller? 5, 4, 3, 2.
Backdraft.
It's incorrect. 2-point steal here for Above the Line.
Firestorm.
2-point steal for
That's
Above the Line.
a huge
Above
steal.
the line here, playing
Only
big.
one more question left. Was Howie Long good in Firestorm? Does anybody know?
No.
he's terrible.
All right, here we go. Last
God,
question
what a
here.
pull. Above the Line leads after action's turn 16-14. Frank, we just talked about it. Doesn't look like Above the Line sweating here. What did you think?
Once they missed these first 2 questions, team action, I was like, it's a wrap. You can, and then they were questions were stolen by Above the Line to make matters worse. It looked bad. Like I thought for real they were going to get TKO'd. This was brutal. But and here's the thing about action adventure, landing on action adventure, team action, they are so handcuffed to this category that if they land it, they have to take it. I feel like they're pressured, they're forced to take this category when I feel like, at least when I was watching the match, I was like, please don't take it. Don't take it. I don't care what people say. But I feel like they're so handcuffed to this category that they have to take it, and they feel like they have to take it because that's their namesake. And I think hopefully this can put that to rest. If they land an action adventure, they can take a look at the wheel and make a better informed decision, because I feel like if they spun away from action adventure, they probably, I would like to think they would have fared at least a little bit better, because coming up with just 5 points in your own turn, that is god awful when 12 points are available for you. So yeah, by the second question, it was, I already written them off, I'm sorry to say.
Brian, what'd you think of the turn here? Above the Line with a big lead now.
Let's be fair here. This category is action adventure. They are not team action adventure. They are team action. So as we saw against T10, they got a lot of adventure questions, and adventure questions can be quite vast, just like the action category can be quite vast. So that's the thing about these more general categories, is you can get questions from the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, the 70s. It's so sprawling that even guys who love action films can be stumped a great deal, but you could give them the adventure leeway last match, but in this case, they got mostly action questions, and these questions just weren't in their wheelhouse. And I'm very surprised they missed the Jason Statham remake of Charles Bronson's The Mechanic. That seemed like a relatively known thing. I'm not a big Statham or Bronson fan, but I knew it. They had to go to multiple choice. They missed it. It was stolen. From Paris with Love, I understand why they would miss this. This was Travolta when he went through this really lousy phase of his career, kind of like what Bruce Willis has been in until M. Night came along and saved the day. I don't blame them for having to go multiple choice, but in this case, because they went multiple choice, that gave Above the Line the easier steal opportunities. So that gave them another point there. Question 3, at least they were able to come up with that relatively quickly. League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. And then question 4, another huge pull for team action to fight their way back. Jackie Chan, The Falling Helicopter, Who Am I? Still 14-13 ATL at that point. But once again, question 5, as soon as they just started to gain some ground, Firestorm's Howie Long comes along. They miss it, and it's stolen for 2 points by Above the Line. So I understand they felt confident enough to not have to go to multiple choice, but my goodness, that's just crippling at that point. Question 6, Julianne Moore. Multiple choice again, Eagle Eye. It seemed like they knew it before multiple choice, but they're on edge at this point, so I understand playing it safe. 16-14 at this point, Above the Line. 5-point round out of 12 available points for team action, but 4 points stolen. I thought they were done in round 1. I knew they were done in round 2.
It was over to Above the Line, where Magic Drew McWeeny once again sitting from his chair, not even getting up. I'm not going to get up. I'm just going to spin the wheel. Spinner's choice, they take 80s films. They go 5 of 6. They get 9 points. No steals from Team Action to kind of cut the gap there. And it is 25 to 14 above the line after 2. Had this not been a championship format, Action's already done. Frank, what do you think here, man?
Drew, I don't know, man. I don't. What do you say about this guy? He's good at trivia and spinning the wheel. It's a double threat. So, God, just 80s. I mean, Spinner's choice, and then you pick 80s. So they had a great round. I really thought with them missing that first question, that if Team Action could have pulled off a 2-point steal, that would have gave them more of a boost and could have really altered. As we saw how the match went, it would have altered things tremendously going forward, or in the end, rather. Above the line, got 80s. They did what they do, and I'm kind of shocked they didn't run the table, but just because they're so good. And I mean, when you go on a run in a tournament like this, in a playoff type format, you have to have these spurts of luck. It happens to just about every team that makes it to a title contending match or what have you. You need these little bits of luck to help you along the way. A lot of championship teams have them. You can point to certain instances during their run that you go, that went in their favor when most times it might not have. So above the line, you get a favorable category. You still have to answer the questions. They can throw out obscure questions, like a Transformers question that we'll see in the third round. That was out of nowhere. So hats off to Above the Line for just doing what they do and playing the game smart. They're not trying to get cute. We've had 80s before. We've done 70s before. It feels like they're just going to move on to the 90s and then 2000s later on. I don't know. So just a great performance from Above the Line.
One of my favorite moments in this match was there was a question that was being asked. I don't remember which one it was, but Sam, you could tell Sam was thinking of what the answer was, and Drew already had it, and he's looking at Sam like, do you want to keep trying to think of it, or you just want me to answer? I love that so much. Just that visual cue from Drew, that killed me. Brian, what did you think here, man? Huge lead for Above the Line.
Yeah, it's interesting because before the tournament, it was decided that Spinners and Opponent's Choice would be on the wheel for the entire tournament, singles and teams. And typically, it's up to the choice of the favorite, but not in the case of this tournament. And for the most part, both of these teams that made the finals had very favorable wheel results, very lucky wheel results, as they kept getting either Spinner's Choice or their preferred categories. The difference is Above the Line was able to capitalize on all the favorable luck that they received, whether it was landing on their categorical strengths or getting Spinner's Choice. Action got their strengths, but they didn't always capitalize on it. ATL, they got Spinner's Choice, they got 80s. And of course they missed their first question. What did Leslie Nielsen eat in Airplane? Lasagna. They missed it. And this is where Action must exploit a rare mistake by Above the Line, and they just couldn't do it. Giancarlo Esposito bugging out his character and Do the Right Thing. As Aaron alluded to, this was Drew McQueenie's Dario Argento moment of this match, that moment of glee, much like Dario Argento, that kind of put Drew on the map as far as his team camaraderie and chemistry with Sam. So 19-14 ATL. Interestingly enough, the mannequin question, Kim Cattrall and Andrew McCarthy, that's another repeat. So Above the Line, if there's a repeat question, odds are they're going to take advantage, 21-14. And Randolph Duke's brother in Trading Places, this asked for the character name. That character's name was Mortimer. So character names are very, very difficult, but in this case, that didn't stop Above the Line. So a lot of teams would not be able to pull a character name that is not quite as famous as a character name like Anton Chigurh or Han Solo. So once again, you're seeing just how skilled Above the Line is when they did not need multiple choice to get Mortimer. And question 6, Nick Cage pursues Cher and Moonstruck. The audience freaked out over this just because Moonstruck is really part of the demographic of the Schmoedown players, a lot of 80s aficionados within the Schmoedown, so no surprise they were upset over that. So 9-point turn for Above the Line, plus their 4 points in steals, 13 total points in round 2, while Action could not steal a damn point to save their life. So above the line, my goodness, 11-point lead going into round 3. And I just want to point out real quick from the last round, it seemed like Rocha was there to really get in Andrew Guy's head, in Dashley Drew's head. It seemed like Drew kept looking at Rocha throughout the match, even going as far as to say, "Hey Rocha, how's watching from the bleachers, you effing losers?" So it was actually pretty smart of T10 to be there to rattle Action, because Drew was off his game. And I haven't seen a lot of people talk about this, but I do think that the presence of T10 screwing with Drew, it didn't affect Ben. Ben played great, but I really think the heckling of T10 affected Drew's play. Dashley Drew, of course. I'm referring to Drew McQueenie as MVP for most of this recap. But do you guys think that the presence of T10 messed with Dashley Drew's head?
Definitely. Absolutely. And for Drew to even see, this is what I'm talking about. This is confusing. For Andrew to even respond during the match told me right there that he's in his head. Like, had he just stayed calm and not even acknowledged it, completely different story.
And it also goes back to Andrew's performance, though. He's already opened up the floodgates. There's already a crack in the dam for Rocha for top 10 to infiltrate his mind, because he got 3 points in that first round. When you talk smack, that's the danger of talking smack, is when you can't back it up by answering questions. And had that been the case, had he answered, or if he had 5 questions correct in that first round, perhaps he's not as rattled. He doesn't really care top 10's there, or he likes it there that he can jab at Rocha playing in a title match while he's in the bleachers, where Thad didn't even know they had bleachers, which was a great line, by the way.
That was awesome.
So, yeah, I think that's the problem when you're a heel, is you talk a lot of crap, and then when you crap the bed in the first round, no less, it's tough to keep up that kind of persona and not get rattled really by anything, let alone top 10 in the crowd.
Perhaps that 3-point first round for Dashley Drew was a byproduct, though, of T10 already being there and already heckling them. So you know that even before the match starts that T10 is trying to get in Dashley Drew's head. So I think it was an impact from the very start, even before the match.
Yeah, I mean, even Christian even pointed it out. He's like, I think Rocha's in Andrew Guy's head.
Yeah, it's true.
Whew. Well, let's talk about round 3 now. The betting round. Above the line got to spin it, and spinner's choice. And they went with the 80s. This was a Transformers question, the voice of a Transformer. Above the line, bet 3 points for Ted Danson. That was not the correct answer. Action did get it. 1 point, Judd Nelson. So 22-15. Above the line loses 3 points, but they're still well ahead here. Frank, did you have any thoughts on the betting round?
Yeah, surprised that Action didn't go for broke here with 3 points. I know that it's above the lines category, but you're down huge, and you can make up a lot of ground here, especially because if your opposing team misses, they'll lose their points. So, yeah, this could have sank them probably had they missed it and went for 3 points. But you were already down, 11 points?
Yeah.
Usually I like to say that, do just enough to keep yourself to the end. But, man, when you're down 11, oof, that's, I was surprised they didn't go for 3. And it's got to hurt even worse that they got the question right when Above the Line got it wrong. I mean, that could have been a 6-point swing, and then things would have gotten really crazy, especially the way the rest of the match played out.
Yeah, Brian, what did you think here betting round?
Above the Line betting 3 when they have an 11-point lead was surprising, because they've got an 11-point lead, but they got spinner's choice, so it could have worked out. Normally it would have worked out, but the fact that Action only bet 1 when they're down 11 points, this is like the Mark Riley mistake at Collision. You cannot play timid at this point. And of course, as usually plays out in these situations, Action gets it right and Above the Line gets it wrong. So as Frank said, this could have been a 6-point swing. This could have gotten Action back in the game. You cannot play safe at this point. You've got to go big. And just a drastic misstep in strategy for Team Action. And these guys study the game so much. They're as well versed as anyone. And typically, they would heckle people for making such a mistake like this. And yet, they made this same mistake that they would give others crap for. So, I can't believe it. I just cannot believe it that they would do this. So, huge turning point in the match, besides being down 11 points going into round 3.
It just seems like Action at this point just can't do anything right. Even when they're getting questions right, they're doing it wrong. So
they are on tilt, as they say in poker.
Yeah, good reference. And we go to round 4 now. That's the speed round. Ben Bateman got one of 2 questions correct. He buzzed in, did not get the correct answer. Andrew Guy got 1 of 1. He got 1 point. Action Together got 2 more points in this round. Samm Levine added 1 point. So it's 23-17 above the line. Still a 6-point lead going into the 5th here. Frank, any thoughts on the speed round?
This was a round I was very curious to see both teams play for one, especially above the line. Just because of the way they've been playing throughout their short career as a team, they're not really one to come up with the answer right away or want to blurt it out, which is good in a team setting like this. But for a speed round like this, I always feel like, or I have felt like, action between Andrew and Ben, they're very confident of their answers when they first come to mind. Whereas I think above the line, thinks it through and they're just used to that method. So I didn't know how that would translate to a speed round, and I really thought Ben would be the best in this round, which he turned out to be. And I thought perhaps Sam would actually be the second better player here. But I can't really fairly judge how above the line does in this round because they had such a big lead. They didn't have to do a whole lot. Just pick your best spot and get that point, which eventually Samm Levine did on the 5th and final question of the round. So I still am not sure how they will fare against the Patriots, who are absolutely crazy in this round. So I didn't get any answers in terms of how above the line will perform and spectacular against the Patriots, but I kind of got my answer reaffirmed how Action would perform, but they were up against the wall anyway, so they kind of really had no choice.
Yeah, above the line, definitely picking their shots, and even Drew McQueenie kind of just laid out on this one. He's like, I'm not even going to risk the points. But man, another tough round for Action. Take a step forward by getting, 2 points right off the bat, then a step back by missing one. So, Brian, give me your thoughts here on the speed round.
Well, going into the foreign object round, I expected Samm Levine to have the slight advantage in this round just because he's the only one at this table that had any foreign object experience. He's played with those buzzers before, albeit briefly, but yeah, you thought for sure that Action was going to make a comeback given their first 2 questions, and then ATL comes marching back, and Action has a major miss when it came to You've Got Mail. I think in some cases, just don't buzz in. You don't have to buzz in and answer every question. It's better to play it safe. And then Sam closed it out with the Who Framed Roger Rabbit question as ATL goes up 23-17, and this is why those 2 betting round points were so huge, because it should be 23-19 instead of 23-17 going into round 5. And had Dastardly Drew played just an average round 1 with 5 points, this would be almost neck and neck right now. It would be almost neck and neck right now. So really frustrating to see how Action had opportunities to win this match, and yet they blew them time and time again, whether it was round 1, round 2, round 3, round 4. And guys, can you refresh my memory? I've been watching Justice League all day, and I've got all the CG in my head. It's kind of clouding my brain for a little bit. So, was the Ellis-Roca Ultimate Schmoedown Singles Tournament final 5 rounds?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Positive? Because it was only 18-13 Ellis. That was the final score.
Yeah, they had a rough time.
Okay, so they did this last year, of course, but I'm glad that the finalists in the Ultimate Schmoedown are at least getting some foreign object experience as far as the speed round goes. That way, the foreign object's not a complete surprise to them like it was for MODOK when they played their title match against the Patriots back in, I believe, August. So I'm glad that Above the Line now has a little more speed round foreign object experience. So smart move to have it 5 rounds, even though it was 5 rounds last year.
And going back to Ellis real quick, he even tried to do a demo about the buzzers and how you have 2 seconds to answer. And Christian, I don't think was paying attention. I'm not sure, but Ellis was really trying to hammer that home, and Christian completely no-sold it, that was a lot of fun. I like that a lot.
That was great.
Still, even with the explanation, just the fact of using them, touching them, having a sense of how they work makes all the difference in the world. Just ask Jeremy Johns, who used those things every single week on Awesome-tacular, and that is why he is the speed round god. But JTE, he's got a lot of experience with them too, and he's going to challenge Jeremy someday for the title of speed round god, in my opinion.
We'll send Jeremy a postcard up there in Washington.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and talk about round 5, the final round. Action is up first. Ben Bateman takes the 2-pointer. He gets it. Tom Cruise in Minority Report. No way in the world he was going to miss that one. 23-19 Above the Line. Andrew Guy up next. He gets the 3-pointer. Jake Gyllenhaal, the chameleon himself, played Dennis Quaid's son in The Day After Tomorrow. 23-22 Above the Line. Now Action has to hit the 5-pointer to stay alive and avoid the TKO. They get it with an interesting question and answer I thought was super fun. The previous Santa fell off of a roof in The Santa Claus, so Team Action takes their first lead, 27-23. We go over to Above the Line. Samm Levine gets the 2-pointer right away. William H. Macy, the car salesman in Fargo, 27-25. Action. And Drew just has to hit the 3-pointer to win, and it was almost like, oh, it's me, I'm going to answer it, I already know. So he gets the 3-pointer. Sean Levy directed the Night in the Museum trilogy, and Above the Line cruises, in my opinion, to a 28-27 victory over Team Action. They will face Team Patriots, JT and Jeff Snyder, at the Spectacular. Big things happening. Above the Line, another masterful performance. Frank, what'd you think here, man?
Team Action. Too little too late here, going 3 for 3 in your final round for 10 points. It just harkens back to all the missed opportunities that they had in previous rounds, and they really got this one. Has to hurt tremendously if you're Team Action, if you're Ben and Andrew, because you know that you can hang with Above the Line, and you can probably hang with the Patriots, but you just got to get your strategy together. You just got to get your act together in terms of how you play the game, which I thought they were one of the better teams to do it. But I guess when you're underneath the bright lights in a 5-round match for the first time, things don't go your way, don't go according to plan, and they got rattled pretty early, mostly Andrew, and that just affected them throughout the entire match. And Above the Line, cool as a cucumber for the most part. In that 4th round, didn't have to do a whole lot. They weren't really fazed by losing 3 points in the 3rd round, and I think it just goes to show you the amount of experience Sam has had in the Schmoedown, just in general playing in singles for the past couple of years. And Drew, I think, really taking notice and a lot of cues from Samm Levine about how to approach the game. I think that's helped him tremendously, especially in the team tournament, obviously. So just a great performance from Above the Line. Amazing to see how close Action came despite all the troubles. So I thought I knew stuff about the Schmoedown. I don't when matches happen like this.
I think even with Team Action getting 10 points in that last round, I still don't think Above the Line was sweating it. I think they were perfectly calm and composed, and man, another notch on a magnificent season, especially for Samm Levine. We'll talk more about that later. But Brian, what'd you think here of round 5 and the overall victory for Above the Line?
As poorly as Action played, round 5 showed why they are a team to be reckoned with in the future. And when they get all 3 questions right for 10 points, these were easier round 5 questions, final round questions. Tom Cruise in Minority Report, very easy question. Jake, Alfred, I need Nightcrawler, Gyllenhaal, and Day After Tomorrow. The 3-pointer, that's a very easy 3-pointer. 23-22 Above the Line at that point. Again, Action, they would have had a 1-point lead here had the betting round been treated properly. Had they gone for 3 in the betting round, on top of a handful of other missteps and poor performance. But 5-pointer, Tim Allen, Santa Claus films, those films were very popular mid to late 90s in our heyday. So 27-23 action at that point. It should have been 29-23 action at least. So I'm just so frustrated for Action, even though Above the Line had this in the bag. You never felt like they were ever going to relinquish this lead, but Action blew this in so many different ways. And Will Macy and Fargo, Jerry, of course, easy 2-pointer. ATL for the win. Night at the Museum trilogy director Shawn Levy, Stranger Things fame. He's the director and executive producer of that show. So Shawn Levy is having a great last couple of years. Above the Line, though, they got the win. It's something my bracket predicted about 6 months ago. It feels like it's been 6 months since we first filled out our team brackets. I again predicted then that Drew McQueenie would be the MVP, and boy was he ever. And as I said then, as long as he got that first match, it would give him a chance to establish a rhythm. And did he ever? So when you're able to play a lot of matches in a short amount of time, it's just a lot more advantageous for guys like Drew McQueenie versus playing once every 3 months. So we now see what Drew is capable of. We now see what Sam is capable of. His matches were also few and far between. He's now living up to the potential that we knew he had going into Phase 6, going into the Collider era of the Schmoedown. So I couldn't be happier. I'm disappointed that Action blew this. They had a chance to win this. The future's still bright, though, for Team Action. They are stars. That's the main takeaway. That's a silver lining here is, yeah, they lost this match. They're not going to be playing the Patriots in what would have been the most vicious match of all time in terms of smack talk and kayfabe. But the tournament is a place where stars are born, and Team Action are stars. They might be the brightest stars at this point because they know how to play the Schmoedown better than just about anyone right now. And I'm not just talking about the trivia. I'm talking about, on and off camera. They know how to play the Schmoedown as well as anyone. So congrats to them nonetheless, even though they lost. And I'm thrilled that we're going to get a great spectacular match in terms of ATL versus the Patriots.
I'm predicting an all-timer. I just want to throw that out there. Let's talk about the post-match interview. Emma Fyfe is the post-match interviewer for this one. Above the Line, pretty standard stuff until we had a Lion's Den run-in. Tom Dagnino, my word, wearing the French outfit with the Hawaiian shirt and speaking French and Italian. He had a lot of stuff going on. And I really enjoy Tom, and I really like the Lions Den coming in here. I saw some people making some really bad comments about Jeff Snyder, which was just complete bull crap. Like, maybe just check yourself before you make those comments. But also, Drew McQueenie attempting some trash talk for once. And Drew, we'll get back to you on that. I'll get back to you on that trash talk. Brian, we're seeing a lot of stuff going down here. We got a run-in, Above the Line being pretty standard here. What did you think of the Above the Line side?
Well, I thought there was an interesting point made by Above the Line. They said that their lead for the majority of the match helped keep Action smack talk at bay. And that's quite true. Because had Action built a lead, they would have been running their mouths. But because they were playing from behind, that shut them up. During the T10 match, when Action had a lead, during their other matches with Team Trek, when they had a lead, they were running their mouths. So the fact that ATL was able to get that early lead, that was a huge advantage. And of course, Action had so many mistakes that forced them to also shut their mouth. But very interesting point made. And like you said, the Den crashed. They warned Above the Line that Spinner's Choice, Opponent's Choice categories won't be on the wheel for their championship match. It'll be knowledge versus knowledge, even though Spinner's and Opponent's Choice lead to knowledge versus knowledge. I like that it's not going to be a matter of Spinner's or Opponent's Choice deciding matches. It's just going to be categories, and that's the best thing in the case of title matches. So I'm glad that we'll get a true test for both teams in that case. And then there was such a weird moment as Jeff Snyder tried to put the exclamation point on their interview crash by saying how they've beaten the hot thing, as in the hot new team, 5 times before, and the camera didn't cut, and the host didn't cut away. Like, I think Jeff was kind of left hanging there. They kind of embarrassed Jeff a little bit. They left him hanging there. The editors didn't cut it. The host didn't shift or transition. It was just this awkward moment to where Jeff then had to set up one of his own segues. So he's like, okay, I'm out of here. So it was this kind of funny, awkward moment that played out. I'm not sure if you guys noticed this, but it was very, very Family Guy-esque in terms of this awkward, dramatic pause. Where
now that you mention it,
you knew Snyder was waiting for something to happen, and nothing happened. So funny stuff in that regard. And one of my favorite moments of the match, or at least of the post-match, the impartial Emma said, "There weren't too many throwaway easy questions throughout the match." She said this to Sam, and Sam immediately said in response, "There were a few." So
great.
Emma once again gets called out on her interpretation of events, and look, she's trying to be positive and friendly, I get it, but Sam had no problem saying what was actually taking place in the match. There were a few, so go back and check that moment out if you missed it. And what the hell, who assaults Sam with 2 M's at Fenway Park?
Yeah, I was surprised to hear this.
Sam Bartman? He's not Steve Bartman. He's not Sam Bartman. Why would someone assault Sam with 2 M's? Did they know he was a celebrity? Did they recognize him from Freaks and Geeks or something? Was he wearing a Cubs hat? Now,
I don't even know if the Cubs were playing in Boston that year. I don't know.
But sometimes fans of other teams will wear their hat to games that have nothing to do with their team, and the actual teams that are playing or hosting will get pissed.
I think you better take off the Orioles cap.
Yeah, I better.
No, seriously. You're in the owner's box. I don't think it's a good idea.
You're not serious.
Yes, I am.
Well, didn't he say that?
No, but he gave me the seats. And I don't think he'd like it if you wore an Orioles cap.
Yeah, well, maybe you should ask him.
I don't have to ask him. Now, you going to take the hat off or not?
No, I'm not going to take it off. Why should I take it off? That's ridiculous.
Let's just take the cap off.
What? George, I am at a baseball game.
So maybe he was wearing a Cubs hat. Maybe someone in Boston got pissed off about that. Really good post-match as far as ATL is concerned. Aaron, talk to us about Action.
Yeah, at first I thought that Team Action had come in. They were talking. They were humbled. They were saying maybe our shades were not dark enough for the bright lights.
Great line.
Some really good stuff there from Ben and Andrew. And then we had another run-in, and it was from Team Top 10, Matt Nost with the pizza box, and immediately I noticed his shirt. Talk about that in a second. John Roca with the Coors Light, and it just kind of broke down into complete chaos here. Emma almost got hit in the face with a microphone. People were saying, F you, F this, and it got hairy there for a minute. And I think that Team Action, not only were they letting their frustrations from the match out, but they were letting their frustrations with Top 10 in general out, and they just kind of exploded. Frank, did you get a hold of this? And tell me what you thought here.
Well, first off, let me just start off with the way Action started off. I thought it was a little surprising to see this turn in them. And then Matt Nost and John Roca, they show up. And I absolutely love the fact that Matt Nost walks in with the pizza box. That's a great thing of comedic beauty, if you will. And then, yeah, things got tense. Things got really intense. I really thought that Andrew Guy and John Roca might come to blows right there. It was getting pretty physical in terms of post-match Schmoedown stuff. I mean, that's as physical as I think you may ever see. I mean, I know we saw Riley and Roca have a bit of an altercation, if you will, but this one seemed like some great acting was going on. I'll just say that. I don't want to say this stuff was genuine between them in real life. I doubt it. I don't want to put that out there, even though I just said it, so that's there. Anyways, I loved this. This was just complete insanity. I love when this stuff happens. It doesn't happen all the time, which I'm glad it doesn't, because when it does happen like this, it's just great entertainment, and I eat it up. I eat it up when this stuff happens.
In the wrestling biz, they would call that a shoot. But real quick before I get to you, Brian, Matt Nost rocking a West Virginia Mountaineers shirt, which just immediately just gave me chills and made me angry. Funny story behind this. Matt Nost wore that shirt on an episode of Top 10. I tweeted at Matt Nost and said, Matt, I will mail you a Marshall University shirt if you never wear that West Virginia shirt again. And he responded to me by saying, I lived in Clarksburg, West Virginia for many years, so I have the shirt. So that's why I have it. So I'm going to give him a pass on that, but I just wanted to throw that history out there. Brian, it's complete bedlam in this post-match interview. What did you take out of it?
Well, Action came out and acknowledged the fact that they didn't play their best. They're upset that they lost to the most boring team, in their words, and I don't think that's true at all. There are far more boring teams than Above the Line, and I'm not saying they're boring as I say that, but the Ben Bateman line, as you already referenced, our sunglasses weren't dark enough to block out the bright lights. That's just poetic. And then T10 crashing the interview. I guess you would call that poetic justice, where they brought out the props that Action initially used to mock T10 in their entrance. The pizza box, the hat, etc. JSR was wearing his Man in Black attire for some reason. All black cowboy hat. So not sure what he was doing there. Perhaps he was foreshadowing something. I don't know. But Dastardly Drew said to JSR, don't you have 12-year-olds on Facebook to pick on? And so there's a
Great line.
Great line, of course, because it's kind of true. And they went back and forth, and there was this really awkward moment where Rocha tried to grab Dastardly Drew's mic, and Dastardly Drew would not let him take it. He ripped it away. He kind of pushed Rocha off him a bit. So, yeah, it could be kayfabe. It could be a shoot. But this got intense, as Frank said, and Action has made it quite clear they don't want to play T10 in a number one contender match at Spectacular. They said that they don't deserve the match. It's not just for the fact that they already beat them in the tournament. They said that they just don't deserve it. And part of the reason T10 came out celebrating was because they think they're playing for a number one contender match at Spectacular against this very team, against Action. Action wants no part of it, though. So Thad with 2Ds now has a very big mess on his hands to handle, because Christian was the one on Inside Schmoedown who said that the loser, or in this case Action, would play T10 in a number one contender match at Spectacular should Action lose to Above the Line. But things have changed since then. Thad with 2Ds is now the commish. Action has made it clear that they're not going to play T10 under the circumstances of it being a number one contender match. JSR, as they were exiting the stage, he loudly stated, Harloff said, it's a number one contenders match. But in the wrap-up, Kay was then saying that Top 10 just wants to play Action even if it's not a number one contender match. And yet, there was no indication of that in the post-match interview that T10 was willing to play without the number one contender status. I'm sure they would play, but they were still expecting a number one contender match based on JSR's closing line. Signals were a bit crossed there, but now it's Thad's mess to clean up. And there's a bit of kayfabe that we'll get to in a second, but it seems like this match is veering away from it being a number one contender match. We'll talk more about this when we get to the bonus post-credit scene, the kayfabe scene. But yeah, very interesting stuff that Action basically put their foot down and said, we are not playing these losers. I've been quite vocal from the beginning. I feel that MODOK should be playing Action in a number one contender match at Spectacular. They played the Patriots closer than anyone to date, and it just doesn't seem right that just because they lost a very close match that they should have to go back down the ladder.
I say put 4 teams in a cage. Put Top 10, Action, MODOK, and yes, formerly Team IGN or Iron Gold, if I would say that. Just throw that out there. Put them all in a cage and just let them fight it out War Game style.
Before we get to the Thad kayfabe scene, let's talk about the Schmoedown breakdown with Frankie J. Dastardly Drew, 59% throughout the entire tourney, while Ben Bateman, 83%. So Dastardly Drew, he's got to pick up his game if Action wants to reach the next level. As we've seen with T10, Ben Bateman can only carry this team so far. If he ever has an off match, Action's in trouble, just like T10 is often in trouble if JSR has a bad match. So Drew's got to get in the gym. He's got to get his reps down. He's got to get some of those popcorn trivia apps or whatever the heck it might be. I love the guy. He's a star player. He brings it all to the table, but in between the character work that he does, he's got to focus on the trivia itself. Samm and Drew, 76% for Samm throughout the tournament. Above average for a partner of a captain of a star. Drew at 89%. So above the line, my God, 89% for the captain of the team, Drew. 76% for what's the person that's right below a captain on a ship as far as rankings go? Like who's second in command?
Is it lieutenant? I don't know.
I guess his lieutenant. So
XO? Yeah, I don't know.
his XO. There you go.
Yeah.
The commanding officer, I guess you would call it. So Drew at 89, Samm at 76. This is such a dominant team just based on these accuracy percentages alone. So Drew McQueenie, of course, MVP, he can afford to slip up. He can afford to slip up because Samm is above average for the most part compared to other teams where their partners are often the weaker link. So Frank, any thoughts on the Schmoedown breakdown? I know, of course, you wrote the segment. It's your segment, but anything you want to add as far as this match to cap it all off?
Well, if you're not following the Twitter handle SD Rundown Stats, where I put out more stats outside of the segment, I recently posted round 2 performances from teams this season and their average points, and it doesn't include the steals. And above the line, through their 4 matches, just during their turn, they're averaging 9.5 points. And when you compare that to the team they're going to be playing against in Spectacular, the Patriots, through 4 matches of their own this year, they're averaging 8.8 points. And Snyder, he quote tweeted it saying, "I'm shaking in my boots." And to that, I say you definitely should, Snyder, because this team is the most legitimate team we have seen that could dethrone you and do it in a very scary fashion, the likes the Patriots have never seen before. So, Jeff Snyder, you keep shaking in those boots because you're in for a hell of a ride come Spectacular.
Yeah, I agree. I think above the line is going to give them a tremendous test. I still respect the hell out of MODOK, and had MODOK had any experience in the foreign object round, they may be champions right now. But above the line is going to give us a heck of a match with the Patriots, and the numbers are definitely on their side right now. So let's get to that Thad kayfabe scene. Ben Bateman reiterated, as did Dastardly Drew, that they don't want to play, and they will not play T10 in a number 1 contenders match at Spectacular. Ben floated this conspiracy theory that Harloff just wants to see T10 in every title match. So, Turner, what are your thoughts on this kayfabe scene so far?
I liked it a lot because Thad is reminding me of the old school days of WWE, WWF, when they would appoint a commissioner, and whether it was, Mick Foley or Shawn Michaels, whoever it was, all these competitors would come to them with their problems, and they would make, sometimes it would be fair, sometimes it would be goofy, but Thad, once again, as I said earlier, being quite fair to Team Action and saying, okay, guys, I hear what you're saying. You're making sense. Let's draw up some contracts. The guy loves his contracts. And you guys can put some things in, Top 10 can put some things in, and we'll come to a mutual agreement. We'll have a contract signing. I assume that'll be an extra bit somewhere down the road. But I like what Thad's doing here, man. I really like this guy's work.
It seems like a number 1 contender match between Action and T10 is not going to happen under any circumstance. Action has made it clear. Ideally, if this was the Brian Davids League, which it's not, I would have these 2 teams play to face MODOK in a number 1 contenders match. That's what my ideal situation would be, because I want to see T10 and Action play again. I want to see these 2 teams go at it. They're entertaining. I love the smack talk between the 2, and since we don't get to see Action and the Patriots rip each other's throats out, this is kind of the consolation prize. But it just shouldn't be as a number one contenders match. So it seems like we're moving away from that. And I wouldn't be surprised, though, if they do something unique, whereas they make it a number one contenders match for just team action, while it's not a number one contender match for T10 if T10 were to win. If T10 is truly willing to play action under any circumstance, which is what Harloff implied in the wrap-up, he said that they don't care if it's a contender match or not, even though JSR's comments during the crash and leading up until the announcement of that initial contender match prove otherwise. That could be an option where if Action wins, they get number one contender. If T10 wins, they do not get number one contender, but perhaps they get a step closer to a future contender match. I don't know. Hopefully the winner just goes on to play MODOK, which is what I'd like to see, but if Action just gets the number one contender match or status by winning, by beating T10, I can certainly live with that too. Since Christian made that announcement that T10 would be playing Action, it's amazing to me how many T10 fans have said, you know what, I love this team, I love JSR, I love Matanos, but they don't deserve to be in a number one contender match. It's amazing to me how many people have said that, so I truly respect their fan base for being honest.
Whatever the terms may be, I think will be satisfying to all fans of the Schmoedown and fans of Team Action and of Top 10. So I'm just looking forward to the next bit that reveals just how the terms come to be. And maybe this is a prolonged thing. We still have a few weeks to go here into Spectacular. So it would be funny to see some negotiation kayfabe as opposed to just a flat out announcement. But you never know what's going to happen here. So yeah, when we try and guess at these things, if there's anything that I've learned from the Schmoedown, you just don't guess because you're always going to be wrong.
Again, I want to see these two teams play. I just don't want it to be a number one contender match for both teams. For Action, I can get behind, but imagine this. What if they play it spectacular? Action wins, thinking that they are now the number one contenders. What if MODOK just drops in and surprises everybody and says, Action, we're the number one contenders. You know it. Everybody knows it. We want to play you right now to decide who the real number one contender is. Could we see
That'd be amazing.
Could we see a surprise move like that, Aaron Turner?
I'm into that if and only if Matt and Gray dress up as Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior, respectively, to make that challenge. The only thing I want to say, and I'm just really going to go back to the kayfabe bit real quick, I still believe that Top 10 has to put something on the line. And I'm not saying... I guess what I am saying is I want something steep, like either they disband, like that could be the most extreme measure, or they just don't get to be contending for a year, like something.
Yeah.
Because they're kind of, in a way, they are kind of jumping to the front of the line. And I don't like that. And I think that Thad, being, like Frank said, and like we've all said, being quite fair, I don't think that's going to... I think he may give them one of those two options. I don't know for sure, but I just feel like something final has to happen to this team.
They absolutely have to take a break for a while because I'm admitting it. JSR is very important to this league. He's very important to the growth of the Schmoedown, but he's risking his reputation right now. He's kind of tarnishing his legacy with all these embarrassing losses, and this whole face heel thing has not worked out whatsoever, so you cannot risk this character losing more respect even amongst his own fans. When your own fans are saying, you know what, you guys don't deserve this number one contender match, that's a problem. So hopefully if they lose, they take a step back for a while. And that's the best thing that you can do in some cases.
All right, we'll be back right after this.
Hi, I'm Aaron Turner. You may know me as the host of this fine program, the Schmoedown Rundown. Perhaps you know me from my small cameo in the McG film, We Are Marshall. Either way, I'm glad that you're here and I'm glad that you're listening. I want to tell you about the SK Plus YouTube channel as well as the Schmoes Know iTunes feed. If you're listening or watching via the SK Plus YouTube channel, please give our video a thumbs up and leave us a comment in the section below. Tell us what you thought of the episode. We'd love to hear it. And of course, subscribe to the SK Plus YouTube channel. That way you're up to date on all the newest episodes of all the shows we have. Special welcome to our good friends Ace and RB3 with their new show, The Meaning of. Definitely check it out. Those guys are fantastic. If you're listening via iTunes on the Schmoes Know iTunes feed, please rate and review the feed itself. Give us a good rating. That way we can move up the charts and more people can find this great content. We certainly appreciate your support. And of course, for more Rundown news, follow at SD Rundown and at SD Rundown Stats on Twitter. And now, back to our scheduled program.
All right, guys, we're back from break. We're talking about the second recap, the Ultimate Schmoedown Singles Final, JTE Little Evil versus Samm Levine. It's Levine week here, 2 big matches. Before the match even got started, though, we had another pre-match segment here, this time between Christian and Thad, where, Christian told Thad, like, hey, you're doing a great job. And Thad said, you being commissioner and champion kind of isn't working. I want someone to be commissioner. While you're the champion, maybe I should be the commissioner. And Christian agreed. They have a handshake deal. And Thad wants a contract. And like we said many times this episode, the guy likes his contracts. Brian, tell me your thoughts here on Thad and Christian during this pre-match bit.
First off, I enjoy all the Thad kayfabe. Thad with 2 Ds, of course. And basically, the function of this kayfabe was meant to explain why Christian was back again to call this particular match. So, Christian was there to call the Tuesday match for Action and Above the Line, but then he was back to call this match as well. So, this was basically to explain why Christian is back, even though he's supposed to be on break, hence the promotion of Thad to interim commissioner. So, as I said earlier, they've evolved this interim commissioner as something that started as Christian's paternity. So, as I said earlier, they morphed this paternity leave interim commissioner role into Christian not being commissioner while he's the champion of this league. So, until Spectacular, at the very least, Thad will be the commissioner. And that is how they justify Thad moving forward with the role. And that is how we can justify Christian being back to call matches, even when he's supposed to be on a bit of a break. So, funny nonetheless, Thad is becoming quickly known for his love of contracts. We're going to talk about that later. But Thad wants a contract with Christian. He wants a contract with Team Action and Bottom 10. So this is Thad's thing. Thad with 2 Ds. So I'm digging it, of course. And it's all to set up Christian being back at the table. So amusing stuff.
A little bit of a Jimmy McGinty action there. He wants a contract. I like it. Let's talk about the promo notes here. JTE calling Samm Levine a cakewalk. Interesting thoughts there. My big takeaway, I know there was a lot of back and forth here, but Mark Andreyko, I did not realize that Blofeld's cat had merch. Did you guys know that Blofeld's cat had merch?
News to me.
Yeah, and that was an awesome shirt that Andreyko was rocking. Frank, did you have any takeaways here from these promos?
The only one thing that I took away was Samm Levine's line in terms of JTE spelling cakewalk. That just sold it for me in terms of the promos here. Other than that, there's not a whole lot that each other can say about one another. But nonetheless, you get some Patriot action, or rather Lions Den action, and then you got Samm Levine just out there by him lonesome, weathering the storm that is the Lions Den. So it was interesting.
Brian, what'd you think here?
First off, I like that they ran through their years so far. JTE being 9-1 in 2017, his only loss coming to Clark Wolf. He beat Bibiani. He lost to Clark, as I just said. He beat Ken Knapsack. He beat Drew McQueenie, he beat Snyder, he beat Kalinowski, while Samm won free-for-all. He lost to Merle, a match he didn't really request, but because he accepted that match like a true gentleman, that's rewarded him with karma for days. Since then, he's beaten Bibbs, he's beaten JSR and Cushing, so the Levine promo was about as I expected. He doesn't go too far. The cakewalk stuff was interesting, and JTE had the full force of the Dark Army, of the Lion's Den, except for Snyder, of course, Dagnino, Grace, Android, and they started things off, and the second M is for Moron. So I've been doing this little bit this whole episode, Thad with 2 Ds, because it's all based on Samm with 2 M's. So the Lion's Den, we're having fun with that, and Dagnino still has his sights set on Harloff. He wants Harloff so much. He wants JTE to take him out because he doesn't believe that Harloff is the legit champion. So Dagnino is he's got a lot riding on this match, to say the least. And JTE then said that Levine hasn't played anybody, which, as I just explained, is absurd. He beat Bibiani, he beat JSR, he beat Cushing. You cannot argue with that. You cannot argue with that. So there's some interesting stuff, though. As I've noticed, Fredo Knapsack, he's done this on Inside Schmoedown, and I've noticed he's done it on a few of these matches recently, where he keeps going out of his way to say how impressed he is by JTE's run with the Lion's Den and how the Patriots have had so much success. He goes out of his way to say things like, what's going on in that locker room? What is Dagnino doing to that locker room to get this kind of success? He keeps saying how curious and intrigued he is by the Lion's Den. So it's just weird that Fredo keeps admiring the Lion's Den, even though he's the facest of all faces and they're the heelest of all heels. It's interesting how Knapsack keeps acknowledging the Lion's Den for their status.
Are there people out there that don't like the Lion's Den?
A few.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about round one. It was JTE getting 6 of 8 for 6 points. Samm getting 5 of 8, so it's 6-5 JTE here. Pretty tight here in round one. Frank, what'd you think?
How does any good hotly contested match start off? By answering your first questions, which these guys did not. So that was kind of funny. But JTE then...
What do I always say? Universal misses almost always take place on the first or second question. It's the strangest damn thing.
It is. You're right. It really is when you think about it. But JTE, he goes on a nice run here of 6 in a row. So he bookends the round by missing his first and last one. But Samm Levine, just 5 points here. Kind of what he's always done. So not too surprising of a round beside the first question missed by both. So about what I expected.
Brian, what was your takeaway here, round one?
Yeah, like I said, it's so strange how universal misses usually take place to start the match. And it used to be a lot because... And it used to happen a lot because a lot of the animated questions would lead off the match, whether it was question 1 or question 2. And as we know, animation is a big weakness for the majority of the league. And question 2, Bruce Willis as a burglar, Hudson Hawk, tied it up at 1. It's weird. There are a number of occurrences lately where someone will be asked how they've spelled something on their board, and they'll completely tune out the announcers as they're being asked to show their board, and they'll just be erasing their board. It happened recently with JSR. It happened recently with Kalinowski. So the players are not paying attention, or they cannot hear very well. I do know they can hear, but there have been a number of occurrences lately where players are quick to erase their answers. Perhaps, this is a conspiracy theory, perhaps by erasing it as quickly as possible after getting the point awarded to them, that way they don't risk getting the point taken away if their spelling is completely off or if they wrote the wrong answer entirely. So, I don't know, there's just been this weird trend now where I've noticed this a few times. So, just put that in the back of your mind. In question 3, Kenneth Branagh, Henry V, JTE went up 2-1. This was an interesting question because Samm with 2 M's went with Hamlet, something most people would have done, and I myself did as well. However, Henry V was Kenneth Branagh's directorial debut in 1989, while Hamlet came later in 1996. But before Hamlet, he also directed Much Ado About Nothing in 1993, although Mark Ellis much prefers the Joss Whedon rendition from 2012. So I thought this was a shocking pull from JTE. Question 4, Bill Hurt, he played Vigo's brother in a great film, A History of Violence. Love Cronenberg. 3-2 JTE. Question 5, Michael Mann's Miami Vice. Colin Farrell, Jamie Foxx. I effing hated this movie. A group of us went to see this when we were in college. So when you go to a movie as a group in college, you don't have a lot of money when you're in college because you spend most of it on beer. So to go see a movie is a big deal. We hated the movie so much that we all got our money back, since we essentially sacrificed beer money to see it, and they gave us our money back. So sometimes if you complain loud enough about a bad movie, you can get your money back. Don't try this at your neighborhood theater, folks. This was the early 2000s when customer service mattered. But question 6, Chris Columbus's directorial debut, Adventures in Babysitting. 5-4 JTE. There's something interesting about this question. The question was written as, what 80s adventure comedy was Chris Columbus's directorial debut? Did they need to include the word adventure along with comedy, given that adventure is part of the film's title? If you had just said, what 80s comedy was Chris Columbus's directorial debut, there's enough information there to answer the question. But by including adventure, you're giving away part of the title, making the question easier. So for example, would you write a question that says, what Christmas comedy stars Randy Quaid? Of course, I'm talking about Christmas Vacation. So I'm splitting hairs a little bit, but that inclusion of adventure really does spark a potential answer in someone's mind that they may not have gotten had they just written what 80s comedy was Chris Columbus's directorial debut. So, Aaron, let me start with you. Do you think including the word adventure was too much or too far to go in this case?
I don't know. I think it's fine. I got no problem.
Again, the answer was Adventures in Babysitting. What 80s adventure comedy? Frank, I know you're going to disagree with me. Do they have to include the word adventure, given that it's part of the title? I'm 0 for 2. I can already tell.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's okay because it's the first round. It's a one-pointer. It's probably a bad... If anything, it's a bad... They could find another similar word, I think, to put in there, but...
No, just say what 80s comedy was Chris Columbus's directorial debut. It's simple as that.
Sure. I mean, it's... Yeah.
I mean,
again, it is what it is. It's okay.
What Christmas comedy stars Randy Quaid? Christmas gives it away right there. But whatever.
But it's a one-pointer, so that's if this was like a two-pointer or in the third round, then the final round, then I think you have more of a case there. But it's the one-pointer in the first round, so it's okay.
These early rounds dictate the outcome. It often comes down to the last question.
I'm not. That's not what we're debating here. Whether this round dictates the rest of the match or not. I'm just talking about the question and the situation in which it's presented.
But this 1 point, Frank, can always come back to haunt you. Question 7, Pixar film, 6-4 JTE. Sam's animation studying continues to not pay off. He's studied so much animation, he's watched all this animation, and yet all the animation questions that Sam with 2 M's gets are these weird, crazy Pixar film with Marine, Lee Ermey. I mean, what is that? Like,
this was a total guessable one, though. Come on.
What? Who the hell is Lee Ermey? I know he's a Marine, but...
Gunnery Sergeant Hartman from Full Metal Jacket, sir?
Oh, that's the same guy?
Yeah.
Wow.
Was he a Marine in real life?
Yes, he was.
Damn it. I just lost some percent. I grew up watching Full Metal Jacket, and yet for some reason his name slipped by me. But
you had a rough childhood.
I kind of did. But Dog Day Afternoon, Sam requested a repeat. Sidney Lumet pulled the answer, 6-5 JTE to close out round 1. JTE wrote Sidney Pollack. So Sam gave extra time to JTE, and yet JTE thought he had the answer the whole time with Sidney Pollack. And as I always say, I love when Josh McCouga's JTE rule pays off for players. Sam has proven time and time again that he's got the knowledge. He just needs a little more time to dig it out, and I love seeing him convert in such moments. So 6-5, round 1.
Let's go ahead and talk about round 2, where JTE spun crime films. He went 2 of 4. He got 4 points. No steals from Sam here. So it is 10-5 JTE after his turn. A little bit of distance here. What'd you think, Frank?
I thought crime would be a safe category for a JTE. I feel like, for whatever reason, I feel like he would know a lot about those kinds of movies. But to go 2 of 4, very interesting. And then, even what question did he use his own rule on? I forget. Because you very rarely see someone... Question 4. Was it question 4? Okay. Yeah, you very rarely see someone ask for a repeat in the second round, I feel like. I can't really remember a whole lot of times. I usually see it a lot in the first round and in the later rounds, the final round. So to see it used in the second round and then actually work out was a bit of interesting action going on here in the match that I found interesting.
Yeah, I'm going to rant about this in a second, so that's why I'm holding back.
All right, so 10-5, JTE getting a little bit of space here from Sam. Brian, what'd you think, man?
Well, JT went first as the Patriots do, although Snyder has deviated from going first in singles play. So I want to say that he's on the bandwagon that Sam and Above the Line and Action have started. He'll take issue with that, but yeah, that's kind of true. JT taking crime movies doesn't surprise me whatsoever. He's all about the crime movies. What lethal action comedy starred Mel Gibson and Danny Glover? Never mind. Question 1, Woody, Eisenberg, Franco, Now You See Me. That's a crime movie. That's an insult to crime movies everywhere. But JT got it nonetheless, 8-5. Now, we talk a lot about universal misses. This was another strange question to be in the crime movie category. Yes, it's a crime movie, but it's a comedy first and foremost. Chaz Palminteri, Robert De Niro, JTE missed it. Of course, Sam couldn't steal it. Analyze this, so it's still 8-5, JTE. Question 3, Jason Statham is Handsome Rob in The Italian Job. JTE has to go to multiple choice, and then it's a universal miss once again for both players. JTE said that he has not seen The Italian Job. F. Gary Gray, Mark Wahlberg, Charlize Theron. I mean, my God, Wahlberg and Theron were at the peak of their powers at this point. Or this movie really helped them get to the point where they were at the peak of their powers. Ed Norton was the villain, for crying out loud. Such a fun movie. I never say fun to describe a movie, but Italian Job is a fun movie. How has Jate never seen this?
You forgot Seth Green.
Seth Green has great lines in that movie about the speakers that'll blah, blah, blah. Maybe it's not so timely today, but Turner, I'm sure you love The Italian Job, given your Mark Wahlberg obsession.
Perhaps, conspiracy theory here, maybe Mark Wahlberg was the one that caused Sam issues at the Red Sox game, therefore he did not remember. Perhaps he made a joke about The Italian Job. Just saying.
Yeah, I want to hear more about that alleged assault, but question 4, this is the exceptionally wordy question, which whenever you have a wordy question, odds are it's going to lead to a JTE rule and or multiple choice. So name the film from the synopsis. In the poverty-stricken favelas of Rio de Janeiro in the 1970s, 2 young men choose different paths. One becomes a photographer, the other a drug dealer. So, because of time constraints in the Schmoedown, because everyone has the same time to answer, it's pretty unfair to have a long question like this when your opponent usually will not have a long, wordy question like this. So, the goal should always be to write questions as concisely as possible, since it's unfair if your opponent doesn't have to burn a Josh McCouga's JTE rule to answer a question that is concise. So it's just, I don't know. It's just, I feel like there are more brief ways to say certain questions. I mean, you could have said, in this case, name the film as follows. In 1970s, Rio de Janeiro, two struggling men choose differing paths. One as a photographer and the other a drug dealer. So that's 31 words in the original question versus 18 words in the revised question that I just put forth. So I'm splitting hairs, but in this case it cost a repeat rule. So the thing is, though, JTE did not have to go to multiple choice because he pulled it via the JTE rule. So he just needed extra time to sift through all these words, and he was able to get it. So had it been written more concisely, perhaps he would not have had to use a JTE rule, preserving those JTE rules for later in the match. So City of God, that is another amazing pull by JTE. I'm blown away some of the pulls that he got in this match. I'm also blown away by some of the universal misses in this match. But still, City of God, I've never heard of this film, even though it had like 4 Oscar nominations. But 4-point turn for JTE, 2 universal misses in round 2, something you almost never see. But a 4-point turn for JTE, including 2 universal misses, which is something you rarely see, if ever, in round 2, especially without one of those 2 or 2 of those 2 being stolen. So Sam could not capitalize on those blown steals. Just a really weird round, all things considered.
Let's talk about Sam's side. He got spinner's choice, as is the streak of above the line in the previous match as well. And he took movie release dates, which I think stunned the studio audience. It stunned me at home as well.
What do you got, Sam?
It's tough. Movie release dates.
Wow!
Movie release dates.
Movie release dates. An unexpected move here from Samm Levine.
He goes 3 of 4 for 6 points, and the really only miss he had was off by a year, and he explained that later. JT did get a 2-point steal, 1989. Good recovery for when Bill and Ted was released. But it's still 12-11 JT after Sam's turn. Frank, what do you think about Sam taking movie release dates here? That surprise you?
That blew my mind. I was highly, I guess, impressed and worried and confused. I was feeling a whole lot of things like, what is this guy doing? Does he really feel that strongly about movie release dates? We don't see a lot of these players tackle movie release dates, especially on a spinner's choice. That's kind of absurd. You have to be a schmo to pull that off. So him going 304 was still impressive, and that second question when he missed by a year in JTE, I feel like basically fed off his confidence of 1988. He basically had a 50-50 shot here going 89 or 87, I feel like, and that's the way he read it. And he got it for 2 points, which kind of foiled Samm Levine's strategy, as he would later explain. So still very impressive, and even more impressive to do it in such a high-stakes match as a title match. So my hat's off to Samm Levine for tackling movie release dates.
Yeah, good stuff here from Sam. Brian, what'd you think?
I'm going to quickly correct myself. The Rio de Janeiro question was actually 33 words. My revision of it was 21 words, so I know people were really hanging on that. They wanted to know the clarification. But yeah, Sam spun romantic comedies. He spun again, of course, spinner's choice. So spinner's choice, opponent's choice. That's really been the theme of this singles tournament. The choice categories just keep popping up. But Sam, the free-for-all karma strikes again, only he seemed like he was trying to undermine that karma by taking movie release dates. I mean, this is one of the most shocking selections we've ever seen. I mean, who goes out of their way, besides Scott Mantz, to choose movie release dates? Has Sam with 2 M's been studying? Has he been secretly gaining this skill, knowing it could be a difference in a Schmoedown win at some point? Who knows? It's impressive nonetheless, because it does make stealing a bit more difficult, as he explained. All in all, it worked out. But yeah, question 2, that was a massive steal for JT. That kept JT around for the most part. That steal was so critical. And I knew it was 1989. I'm shocked that Samm with 2 M's blew it. And I did like his explanation later in the post-match for why he said 88, but of course it was still wrong. Now, 6 out of 8 points, though, in movie release dates, Scott Mantz has not put up 6 out of 8 every time he's pulled that category. So Samm is a new threat in this category, so look out for that in the future, folks.
I was going to save this till later, but I think it's more appropriate now. I did some research. Now you guys are going to have to follow me down a rabbit hole here, so just bear with me.
Wait a second. Aaron Turner did research?
Damn right. Damn right. I have a theory that Samm Levine may have a condition. It's a fine condition. It's not an illness called hyperthymesia. Now there's 3 different pronunciations of it. That's one of them.
Is that where Wonder Woman's from?
No, that's the mascara. But anyway, it's defined as people that have an unusual form of eidetic memory to remember as well as recall any specific thing to a personal event, including trivial details such as a date, the weather, what people wore that day, from their past in an almost organized manner. Now, just how Samm described it later, how he came to movie release dates, I think that explains it. The guy has some sort of super memory that allowed him to pick movie release dates. It's fascinating stuff. You guys should Google it. But I was just over the moon impressed by his movie release dates prowess and how he came to decide that. I thought that was fantastic.
Can I toot my own horn for a second?
Okay.
I can remember what my friends were wearing the very first time I met them. I can remember the outfits they were wearing. Even in first grade, I can remember the outfits they were wearing the first time I met them. So I believe it because I have a version of this, I would say. It's certainly not as extreme as Samm's, but that is impressive, and I have heard of that before. And Aaron Turner, bringing the research.
Bringing the wood. Using that minor in psych. But anyway, let's go ahead and talk to... Good God. Let's go ahead and jump to round 3, which is the betting round. The category was romantic comedies. Samm and JT both bet 1 point. The answer, Crazy Stupid Love, Cal and Jacob and Their Adventures. JT missed it. Samm got it. So that actually turns the tide back in Samm's favor. So it's 12-11 Levine at this point. Frank, what'd you think of this slight turn here in the betting round?
Yeah, I thought JTE really had something going for him once he had that 2-point steal from the second round. But then he missed... That basically all went to waste in the third round here, with Samm getting it right and JT getting it wrong. It's just a very interesting turn of events leading into the fourth round, just the way everything has been shaping up.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Brian, what'd you think about Samm taking a sneaky lead here?
Very interesting, considering what happened in the betting round of the last match, and it's just interesting that JT spun romantic comedies when that's what Samm's first spin was. So the wheel has been doing such interesting things this entire tournament, and this was another example.
Let's go ahead and talk about round 4, which is the speed round. JT, 1 of 2, so he ended up getting no points as his 1-point gain was negated. Samm, though, getting 2 points out of the round, 2 of 2 on his, so he takes a bigger lead, 14-11 Levine after 4. Frank, he's starting to pull away here a bit, don't you think?
Yeah, and that Ghostbusters 2 answer, mother of God, I had no idea. I mean, between that and City of God and all, I mean, geez, there were some crazy pulls in this match, which I was happy to see. And Samm Levine, I think he I don't know, it was interesting to watch his strategy here, because it felt like he knew all these answers, aside from the last one, obviously, and then where none of them touched it. So it's again, I'm trying to figure out how he's going to approach the speed round against the Patriots, and I didn't get too many answers here again, so it's just another interesting round that I think is just contained in itself for this match.
Yeah, Sam's starting to pull away here, starting to get some momentum. What'd you think, Brian?
Yeah, it's interesting. Between round 3 and round 4, you can tell that both players started to play rather tight. They both kind of started to play very cautious. They both laid up. They both were not trying to make a whole lot of mistakes. And as far as the foreign object round, I've talked about how Jeremy Johns is the speed round god, just in terms of that fast twitch. I do think JTE is the next best as far as the reflex goes. I'm not saying that always reflects itself in the actual point department, but as far as that quick trigger, I think JTE is right up there, but Jeremy Johns is still the speed round god. Now, Inconvenient Truth question 1, JTE tied it up. Sam right there, though, with Tommy Boy, then Ghostbusters. Question 4, JTE jumped the gun by stating the movie Back to the Future when it was asking for the tagline of chicken to be completed. So in this moment, Sam had to remind himself that there are no steals, even though I've argued for years that there should be steal opportunities if your opponent does one of two things. Number one, if your opponent buzzes in first and doesn't give an answer, wasting everybody's time, I think a steal should be presented on top of the lost point. I feel it should be a 2-point swing. But on top of that, if someone does what JTE did here, which is jump the gun and answer incorrectly because he didn't listen to the question, and then it's apparent that he didn't listen for the entire question, I also think that Sam should be able to steal in this case too. So I feel like there should be double the consequence whether you buzz in too soon without an answer or buzz in too soon without actually hearing the full question, thinking that it's another question. So maybe they discuss this, I doubt it, but it's something that a lot of players, even veteran players like Sam and Riley, this season in situations just like these, they've both stopped to remind themselves, oh wait, there are no steals in this case. So a lot of people have reacted like there should be. There isn't currently, but all I ask for is that they discuss it in the off season. I'm sure it won't get changed, but just see what all the new blood in the league thinks about potential steals under these circumstances. Just these circumstances. I'm not saying if someone gets a question wrong that the opponent should steal. Just if they buzz in too soon without an answer, or they buzz in too soon with a completely different answer for a question that was not the question. So, question 5, Stardust, again, another example of both players playing very tight. Neither wants to make a significant mistake. This is a sign of two veteran players, and I love seeing this. The Patriots do this as well, where they're not going to take a chance if they don't know it, so it's better just to not answer than to take a chance at being first and being wrong. So, savvy plays from veteran players, and I love it, 14-11.
Let's go ahead and talk about round 5. JTE up first. He got the 2-pointer. Danny DeVito voiced the villain in Space Jam. I didn't even know that he had a name.
Can we talk about this for a second?
Yeah.
That moment played very weird. Like something was cut out. Like there was a big argument about this question. So if you go back and watch this moment, there's a cut. And it seemed like there was a big debate. Christian said, I'm going to give you the 2 points. Sam seemed to sigh a little bit. So there was a very, very good chance that there was a lot of drama behind the scenes. I've asked Christian about it. He honestly did not remember, but I'm very curious. I just want to hear what happened. It doesn't change the outcome of the match. The winner's still the winner. I'm just curious what the debate was about. You guys didn't notice this?
No, I didn't notice it.
I did notice a weird cut, and I was looking through some of the comments, and someone pointed out that maybe there was a debate about whether or not that was an animated film because it was in the animated category. So perhaps they talked about it before an answer was even given. So I'm not sure what the case was there, but yeah, I did notice a weird little cut there.
Because Swackhammer is the main antagonist of Space Jam. That's what he's defined as on paper. But Aaron, you think that they may not have even said his name in the film? Could that have been a possible explanation?
I don't recall him having a name, but I mean, I could be wrong. I feel like I've seen that movie enough to know, but I don't know. I have to go back to the tape on that one.
Well, to all of our Schmoedown competitor friends, give us some insight. Give us some insight as to what went down here.
So that made it 14-13. Levine still has the lead, so we go to JT for his three-pointer. Can You Feel the Love Tonight was the song that won Elton John an Oscar for The Lion King. Good thinking here by JT, because there were 2 songs by Elton John on the soundtrack that were up for that. 16-14, JT takes a lead. We go back over to Samm Levine. He gets the 2-pointer. Rafe Fiennes in Bruges. So it's 16 all. We go to the 3-pointer for Sam. Miami was the city, and There's Something About Mary. 19-16, Levine has the lead once again. Back to JTE to stay alive in the game, and he could not pull the name of Dr. Turner in John Q. That, of course, is that scumbag. James Woods and Samm Levine defeats JTE 19-16. Samm Levine has 2 title matches at the Spectacular. He will take on Christian Harloff in the main event. Big time stuff here. Frank, what'd you think, man?
JTE's 5-pointer. That's a hell of a 5-pointer. It's kind of disappointing to see the match end in that way, where you really felt like JT didn't have a shot. Like, you could tell that he just didn't know it. And I hate when that happens, and that's part of the game, and it happens from time to time. I just hate to see it happen, especially in a title match like this. But it was a great hard fought match by both players. It went back and forth for a while there, and it's just impressive that Samm Levine has won both tournaments. It's really just surreal given the level of talent that we have in this league now over the past couple of years, and the people that really both JTE and Samm Levine have beaten just to get to this spot is incredible. And I was looking at Samm Levine's player history, and you take away his first match against Hale Rudnick and that gimme match against Finstock. I mean, he's played against players that have all been vying for a championship at one point or another, or even held the belt. He's played Clark Wolf. He's played Snyder, now JTE. He's played Roca, Merle, Riley. He's played all the champs. I mean, this guy has run the gauntlet more than once, and to do it here in this tournament, to get a shot at Christian Harloff in the Spectacular, is just mind-blowing when you really look at it.
And free-for-all champion.
Exactly.
That as well. Brian, what'd you think here? Sam clinching the victory in his big round 5.
Just real quick, the other song that Elton John sings in The Lion King, what was the name of the title? What was that title again?
Circle of Life, you're right.
Circle of Life, yeah.
Yeah, Circle of Life. Typically, if you're going to guess in a situation like this for the Oscars, it's the best to go with the most emotional song. And I think that was such a great guess, because Can You Feel the Love Tonight has a bit, they're both emotional songs, but Can You Feel the Love Tonight has a bit more emotion behind it. The Oscars love that kind of heavy dramatic music on top of heavy dramatic films. So I'm so impressed by JTE getting that swag hammer question, pulling off that amazing guess with Elton John when he did not know for certain. But then Sam bounced right back with the Rafe Fiennes answer, and I've gone into detail in previous episodes as to why it's pronounced Rafe and not Ralph. I'm not going to do it again. Sam's 3-pointer, I still have no idea why Cameron Diaz is so prominent within the Schmoedown. There are so many wonderful actresses in this industry, and yet Cameron Diaz is featured more within the Schmoedown than people like Emily Blunt or Scarlett Johansson or Meryl Streep or Julia Roberts, or I could go on for days, but Cameron Diaz should not have as many questions as she for some reason gets. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. And Miami is such a popular question and answer in general within the Schmoedown. But yeah, JTE's 5-pointer, Dr. Turner, who gives Denzel's son a heart transplant in John Q. This was another question that was written inefficiently, which again causes problems in terms of utilizing repeat requests, and if you're going to use them, it's important to use them in the final round. And they're especially important when it's a 5-round match. I failed to make that point earlier, so it's important to write concise questions when it's a 5-round match especially. But in this case, the original question was 31 words. You could have written it with 18 words, and I'm not second guessing. I'm just trying to help the players in situations where they don't get more time to answer when it's a longer question. They still get the same amount of time to answer as if it were a 5-word question. So in this case, I would have said, in John Q, who played Dr. Turner, the doctor who performed a heart transplant for Denzel's character's son? Simple as that. That way, he doesn't have to sift through 31 words and take up more time trying to think of the answer and potentially risking confusion by having so many words. So, in the future, when it comes to 5-round matches where there's a lot on the line, I just hope that we can shorten some of these longer questions, because you don't have to use 31 words when you can say the same thing with 18. And you knew from the moment that question was asked that JT was not getting it. He was struggling. He asked for a repeat. His guess was lousy. I think he guessed, it doesn't even matter. Unfortunately, it was that scumbag James Woods.
Sandra Bullock. He guessed Sandra Bullock. That's what it was.
Yeah, that's a bad that's a bad guess. Sandra Bullock playing a surgeon to give a heart transplant in a Denzel Washington movie, John Q. Why would she take that role? She gets her own movie. She's not going to play a small supporting role in a Denzel film. Sorry. Not going to
all about Steve. All about Steve.
She was the lead of that film, though. She was the co-lead of that film. James Woods was a small supporting character in this film. There's no way in hell she's going to take a role like that at that point in her career. But Samm Levine won the tournament. As I said last week, I'm happy no matter who wins, because it's not necessarily new blood, but it's different blood. Samm Levine's free-for-all karma is coming for Christian. This is such an amazing storyline. Like I said, he won free-for-all. He didn't get the challenge that he ultimately wanted, but he's a professional. He went on to play Merle, and he gave Merle the challenge of the day at Collision. He gave him the best fight, and the Schmoedown gods are rewarding Sam for being a pro, for not complaining, for not making as big a deal about it as I have for him. So he's been rewarded with now 2 tournament wins. He has the chance to be a dual belt holder. It's never been done before. And my God, he has now jumped JTE as far as player of the year. He's jumped Rachel Cushing, of course. Harloff has a case if Harloff wins. That's spectacular. But Samm Levine, he just might have my vote, win or lose. I'm so damn impressed considering where he came from in 2016. Same with JTE. And look, JTE still has teams. If they beat above the line, JTE could still pop back up as far as player of the year. But you cannot be prouder, even though one of them had to lose. Both guys played so well in this tournament, and it was a joy to watch them. So let's get to the post interviews with Jen Sturger. Jen at the wall. Aaron, kick us off.
Yeah, Sam, pretty standard here. We've seen pretty standard stuff from him a lot lately. Christian with a slight run in there. I thought for a second maybe he was going to do a little heel turn, but he kind of backed off of it. So a lot of interesting stuff here. I think it's going to be a highly rated main event for the Spectacular. Frank, what do you think of Christian's run in here and Sam overall?
Yeah, I thought it was just a very run-of-the-mill, it was a very cordial, very gracious post-match interview. I liked Christian stepping in there, talking to Sam, and there's going to be a little more bite to it than I think people are writing off. I think people were expecting or are expecting this to be somewhat of a boring back and forth between Christian and Samm Levine, whereas people wanted to see JTE and Christian go at it. I would have loved to have seen that as well, but I think Samm Levine and Christian is very compelling as well. I just hope people can give that a chance.
Brian, what do you think here? Christian's run in and Sam overall?
I mean, keep in mind, Samm Levine and JSR put up 111,000, so I think Levine and Harloff will sell itself. I mean, that's a heck of a matchup. So there's going to be a lot of storylines, a lot of drama built up in between then. So I am not worried about the marketability of this match. And I mean, how crazy is it? Not only did he win both tournaments, but he's got his second title shot in 6 months thanks to Free For All. So it's remarkable any which way you look at it. And who knows? How far can that Free For All karma take him? Can it take him to double champion? Can it take him to player of the year? That would be something. That would be unprecedented. That would be something no one will ever do in the future. No one will ever win Free For All and then win both tournaments and then win the title. No one will ever do that ever again. No one could ever repeat that path to glory. That is one of a kind for that to ever happen. It's never going to happen again, that specific path. So Samm is already in rarefied air. And yeah, Christian did do a little crash. You know, he's got to hype the match now. Now that he's not commissioner, he can act like a player who just wants to hype his next match. And so that's exactly what he's doing. And Christian said something about feeling the fire, and Samm had a brilliant line, you know, that fire might be hemorrhoids. And Harloff didn't know what to say, so he just said, F you, Samm. He just said, oftentimes when people don't know what to say, they just drop an F-bomb. And it still worked nonetheless. But Samm, because of his improv background, because he's got those improv skills from being on sets his entire life, he's able to dish it back quicker than most players in this league. Certain players, you can tell they have some stuff prepared, they have it scripted, and once they go beyond the script, they struggle to have a comeback. So Samm is going to promote the heck out of this thing. He's going to make this compelling stuff, and I'm super excited. And I'm going with Samm. I'm going with Samm with 2 M's. I think that Free For All karma, you know, I shouldn't be making my pick this early, but I think that Free For All karma is so strong that it's going to come back to bite Christian's hemorrhoids.
Ooh.
No. Oh boy.
Oh Lord. Well, on the JTE side, my God, let's get out of here quickly. On the JTE side of it, Tom Dagnino, sneakily taking the microphone away from Jen Sturger. I thought that was kind of funny. And JT going on this tirade, thanking Spinner's Choice when you kind of thought he was going to be gracious and say Samm had a great match. No, Spinner's Choice had a great match. And just amazing stuff here from JTE. I love his heel work. I love his mic work. What'd you think, Frank?
You know, JTE is interesting the way he displayed LB here, blaming it on the wheel, on Spinner's Choice. I want to point out a comment on YouTube by the username of AJL, and he pointed out something that I think is very relevant here, and he quotes the Little Evil, The Rise and Fall of JTE mockumentary. JTE said this: something that distinguishes a winner from a loser is when a winner loses, he walks away. When a loser loses, they look for any kind of loophole or mistake, or they will fabricate something to try to save face. And what did JTE do here? He pointed his finger. Exactly. He pointed his finger at Spinner's Choice. So maybe you want to look in the mirror, JTE.
Stiff. Brian, what'd you think here, man?
Well, I want to give you guys a history lesson as JSR, when the Horsemen were split up in that special kayfabe episode, he too said that T10, they've always taken their losses like men, and they've never blamed them on anybody else. They've always owned up to them, and yet their loss to Action, they blamed easy questions, they blamed the wheel, they blamed all these things instead of themselves, when there were a lot of other factors that they could have controlled, and yet they blew. So everybody contradicts themselves, unfortunately. That's part of the game. You want to sell the rivalry some more, so you kind of have to blame things that you wouldn't blame in instances where you've won. So I get why JTE said this, but the bigger point in my mind is the fact that you can't blame Spinner's Choice when Sam chose the hardest category in response to it. So
for real,
that undermines his point right there. It's like, had he chose an easy category for himself, okay, that's one thing, but he chose the hardest category and still got 6 out of 8 points. JT got a 2-point steal. That was probably something he would not have gotten had Sam gone with an easier category. So JTE should be grateful that he chose movie release dates. But yeah, it completely undermines the point about Spinner's Choice being the byproduct of Sam's win. That's not the case, especially in a 5-round match. 3-round match, you can blame the wheel a bit more, but in 5-round matches, you really can't say it's just the wheel, because there were other opportunities that JTE blew, like that betting round, the Crazy Stupid Love. That's an answerable question. That's a popular film. People know Ryan Gosling, especially JTE. There were other missteps along the way. I got to give him credit where it's due. He had some amazing polls like City of God. Unfortunately, he had some wordy questions to answer, but there were some easy questions that he missed that he should have answered, like Jason Statham as Handsome Rob. That's just inexcusable for someone of JTE's caliber. So I'm a fan of the Patriots. I'm a fan of the Den, but they don't get a free pass in my book for anything. They don't get a free pass for behavior like this, and you cannot blame Spinner's Choice when Sam chose movie release dates. You just can't. You can't say, congratulations, Spinner's Choice. You just can't. You can't say Robert Redford quiz show type S going on here, because it's not. So the good thing is, at least JTE will be rested. It's spectacular. I'm glad that he will not be double booked at Spectacular. I'm glad that he can just focus his attention on playing above the line. You know, I'm really concerned that Sam now has to play 2 matches on the same event. I'm concerned he's going to be burned out for one of them. You know, we saw that last year with Roca playing an intense matchup first and then playing that singles match against Riley. So I hope that doesn't come back to haunt Sam, but who knows? So, and no one should ever take the mic from Jen Sturger. Take the mic from Emma, take the mic from Grace, but don't take it from Jen Sturger. Please don't. And they're mad that Grace can't interview, but look, she had her moment. She was able to drop an LB, and I like that Android made his presence felt by doing the double L. Maybe this was in the pre-promo. It all runs together at this point, but I love how they played on Sam with 2 M's by doing the double L for the double loser based on the double M. So that may have been in the promos. I may be mixing things up. But great match, great tournament. I love how they improved on certain things based on certain things that did not work in the team tournament, like crashing interviews and whatnot. So I love that nothing was telegraphed in this tournament. So all in all, the Ultimate Schmoedown was a major success, and it was a privilege to be able to cover it.
So that's 2 big events that are set for Spectacular. Above the Line will take on the Patriots for the team titles, and Samm Levine will take on our commissioner and champion, Christian Harloff, in the main event for the Movie Trivia Schmoedown Championship. More things to fill in terms of Spectacular in the coming weeks, but that's going to do it for the Ultimate Schmoedown recaps.
Before we get to our bracket updates, I want to address the Frank down, the Schmoedown breakdown. In tournament play, and I teased this stat earlier, the winner of the first round loses only 17% of the time in tournament play. So JT had a 1-point lead in the first round of this tournament match, of this finals match, and yet he lost. So he had the odds in his favor. Granted, this was a 5-round match, so with 5-round matches, previous statistics kind of alter in that case, but it's an interesting stat nonetheless, and I was fascinated when I heard Frank say that. I was also fascinated when I heard that Frank reported that JTE has never answered all 3 of his final round questions. Frank, is that for every single match in his career?
Whenever he's had the opportunity at all 3 questions throughout his career, he's never been able to answer all 3 at the same time.
Wow, that's unbelievable. Now,
yeah, it's kind of weird. Yeah,
are there only 3 comeback wins in every tournament throughout history?
No, just 3 in the entire of. Let me start over again. There's only been 3 comebacks in Ultimate Schmoedown play. So across the 3 tournaments from 2014, last year, and this year, there's only been 3 comeback wins.
And two were in this singles tournament.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
That was Stacey Howard and Brian Chandler, but that was, yeah.
More importantly, though, of all Schmoedown matches, 100 plus umpteen matches, there have only been 18 comebacks, and we've had, 130 matches? Maybe more? I don't know.
There's been, I want to say close to like 105 regulation singles matches.
18 comebacks only. That's shocking to me. And
Yeah, let's just go ahead and talk about the funeral known as brackets, of course, in my realm. My goodness. I guess we'll start with the team bracket since that was first. Overall, I was 9-6 in teams. I had the Wolves of Steel and my Dark Horse Cinema Blend. Of course, Cinema Blend went out in round 1. But in singles, I was terrible. 5-10 overall. Geez, just a terrible, terrible tournament for me. Frank, what about you, man?
Well, teams, God, this was brutal. I ended up going 5-10.
Okay.
I had top 10 in Wolves of Steel in the final. Did not happen. I had top 10 in Wolves of Steel. They're both in the final 4. That's as close as I got. So, yeah, this is pretty brutal.
Brian, this will be your gloating segment. How did you do, man?
Well, in the team bracket, I had a perfect right side of my team bracket, and I finished 10-5 overall while picking above the line to win it all. I famously picked Drew McQueenie to become MVP since the tournament finally allowed him the opportunity to gain a rhythm in this game, something he couldn't do with such a sporadic playing schedule. I said that if he got that first win, the dominoes would fall from there, and that's exactly what happened. And it's interesting to note, I went 6-2 in round 1, so I tend to start off pretty strong, and then, like most people, it's all downhill from there. But I'm so ecstatic that I picked the winner. I'm not just trying to gloat. I'm ecstatic that I somehow sniffed out the winner, and I somehow sniffed out who the MVP would be. And I'm not trying to gloat, but it's just interesting from the fact that this was an arranged marriage, just like JTE and Jeff. This was an arranged marriage. It was put together at Collision, and now 5 months later, these guys are threatening the Patriots for the championship and are, 4-0 as a team? So, this is unbelievable. We've got another great team in this league, and I'm excited for the Schmoedown's future. I really am, and above the line is a big reason for that.
Frank, tell me about your singles side of the bracket. As I described mine already, it was terrible. How about yours?
Well, for singles, I actually did basically the opposite with teams. I went 11-4.
Oh, wow.
I picked Levine to win the tournament, which he did. I got 3 of the final 4 correct. The only one missing, the one that I had in there that wasn't there was Clark Wolf when she lost in the first round. So that was the big one that really screwed me over right from the get-go. But other than that, and then also Stacey Howard toppling Mark Ellis. That was another one that I did not see coming. Everything else, I was right on line with. So that made me feel good after the team tournament.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Clark. What about you, Brian? How was your singles bracket?
Well, in singles, as I said, in teams, I started off in round 1 going 6-2. In singles, I started off in round 1 going 8-0. And despite going 11-0 to start the tourney, moving into later rounds, I missed my last 4 picks, finishing with the most impressive 11-4 record in Ultimate Schmoedown bracket history.
What? Most impressive? I had 11-4.
Right, but the way that I accomplished 11-4 was the most impressive path to 11-4, having gone 11-0 to start the tourney before missing my last 4. So no one's ever picked their first 11 picks successfully like one Brian Davids. So my record is somewhat misleading because it doesn't represent the dominance that was my bracket, but JTE and Levine, they threw off my new blood projection of Kalinowski versus Cushing, but I'm still happy either way because we get different players that are not Riley, that are not JSR, that are not Merle. So I'm thrilled that we're getting the matchups that we're getting, and man, above the line, Samm Levine, couldn't be happier for a better duo of guys.
All right, and we're going to close with our segment, Who Won the Week?
I won.
A lot of options here. JTE, Levine, a lot of stuff here. I chose the new commissioner. I chose Thad, basically because I chose Sam last week. So I didn't want to repeat myself, so I went with Thad because he was on Inside Schmoedown. He got to be at the table. I thought he was being very fair in his judgment of the action and top 10 issue. I like that he likes contracts. I think that's super fun. It was all Thad. It was all good. He won the week for me. What about you, Frank?
And he dug himself out of that Emma hole that he put himself in last week. So good on him for that.
I'm not going to use the word Emma hole.
Phrasing, as the kids say.
Yeah.
Frank, who won the week for you, man?
Not phrasing. So, I understand your reasoning, Aaron, but it's got to be Samm Levine. The guy just won both tournaments.
I can't help it.
I know. I understand. I understand what you're saying. I understand it. And in a perfect world, you could pick Samm Levine this week, I guess. So, but yeah, it's got to be Samm Levine. There's no one even close to, in my eyes, who could be second.
Fair point. Brian, who won the week for you?
Who won the week with 2 E's? You know, part of me wants to pick movie release dates just to prove a point that Spinner's choice was not responsible for Sam's win, but I gotta go Samm Levine, Sam with 2 M's, Samm Levine. He clearly won the week, having won both tournaments individually and collectively. As I keep saying, the free-for-all karma that Sam earned is the best thing to ever happen to Sam's Schmoedown career, and he's finally living up to the potential that the OG Schmoes No fans knew he had as of Phase 3. It didn't carry over last season, in 2016. It didn't carry over. He struggled last year, but there was still belief amongst the OG fans that Sam would eventually rise up, and has he ever. So I'm as excited for Levine and Harloff as I've been for any title match in Schmoedown history. I cannot wait for December 20th at Schmoedown Spectacular. Just Schmoedown Spectacular, not the Schmoedown Spectacular, just Schmoedown Spectacular.
Samm Leviathan?
Oh, okay. Not Samm Levine? Peeny? What?
Samm Levine.
Think about it. Just
Sam V. Peeny? Sam V. Leany? I don't know.
We'll workshop it.
We're just butchering the English language right now.
Yeah, exactly. It's really terrible. All right, guys, that's going to do it for episode number 60 of the Schmoedown Rundown. Frank Janisch, where can you be found, buddy?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at FrankieJ29. And if you stick around long enough, you can see a stats segment on the Schmoedown.
Sounds good. Brian Davids, where can you be found, man?
You guys can find more of me on Twitter at BDF331. Check out some of my work at filmschlubspodcast.com, where I talk to a bunch of TV creators, writers, producers, screenwriters in film, you name it. And I'm also working on some freelance blog articles for a very special website that I cannot wait to share very soon. It's been years in the works, and I'm finally doing it, so more on that to come.
All right, and before we go, I have to make an announcement. This will be my final rundown appearance. I spoke with Christian this past weekend about taking some time off. We got to talking, and I came to a decision to leave the show completely. The fact of the matter is this. I feel that I have the clinical definition of being burned out. Now you can Google that to find out what that is, but I personally struggle. I struggle with anxiety and depression, and I'm learning how to get a grip on these things. And I realize that this is not the ideal way to leave a show, especially the one that I created, but for me, it's necessary at this time. Frank and Bryan work extremely hard and have put in many hours to make the rundown what it is, and they deserve a third to do the same. I want to thank Christian Harloff for the amazing opportunity to be a part of SK Plus on 2 different shows. Great opportunities there. Your confidence in me, sir, means a lot. I also want to thank the Schmoelighter family for treating me as one of your own during Star Wars Celebration that whole weekend. You guys were amazing to me and Frank, but I can only speak for myself here. I had a blast. Thanks to RB3 and Cody for always uploading the shows on YouTube and iTunes, no matter the time, no matter the day. Those guys are always on top of it. I want to thank Paul Wolf for answering the call early on in the show's history when he was asked to be on. He did a great job while he was here. I want to thank Brian Davids for taking the show to a completely different level that I didn't know we would get to. But Brian brought it up. I don't know. I'm talking like you're not listening because you're right here, but took it to another level, and that's cool. And I always thank you for that. I want to thank my right hand man, Frank Janisch, for being the backbone of this show and a great friend. So, in closing, if you ever took a second to listen to this program, whether you liked it, you loved it, or you really loved it, just know that I appreciate it. I'm leaving you in good hands. I wouldn't just leave you staggered and dead. Just thank you all. Thank you everybody that commented. Thank you to the competitors that came on the show, the people that took time out of their day to talk to me, to talk to us. It's really cool. It's a really cool community. I was glad to be a part of it for as long as I was. I will continue to be a part of it, just in a different capacity. But thank you all. And for now, goodbye.